its inception. And finally, question number 160 of 2023 by the member for Kiambu constituency, the Honorable Mashua Waithaka MP, regarding eligibility of cancer survivors being registered as persons with disabilities. Honorable Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, 5 and 6, I wish to convey that the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development is scheduled to appear before the House on the same afternoon of Wednesday, 14 June 2023, to respond to the following questions. One, question number 084-2023 by the member for Mwingi Central, the Honorable Gideon Muliungi MP, regarding resurveying and correction of titles for parcels of land in Mui Coal Basin, adjudication, survey and title deed issuance for parcels in Mwingi East Sub-County bordering Tana River County. Two, question number 085 of 2023 by the member for Mwingi Central constituency, the Honorable Gideon Muliungi again, regarding the high mast security lighting projects undertaken in Mwingi town. Three, question number 086 of 2023 by the member for Saboti constituency, the Honorable Caleb Amisi MP, regarding the governance and administrative structures of Kwale International Sugar Company, ownership status of property, land reference number 5004/30/R, and also number 27742. Four, question number 087 of 2023 by the member for Laisamis constituency, the Honorable Joseph Lekuton MP, regarding Laisamis constituency and county boundaries. Five, question number 109 of 2023 by the member for Nakuru East constituency, the Honorable David Gikaria MP, regarding the Kazim Tani project phase 3 in 2022 in Nakuru Town East constituency. Question number 117 of 2023 by the member for Embakasi West constituency, the Honorable Mark Mwenje MP, regarding status of ownership of land reference number 12304, original number 1344/1 and 12504 and 12147, original numbers 11344/4, EMCO. Honorable Speaker, I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you. And apologies, it was a long one today.
Thank you, honorable members. I wish to acknowledge in the public gallery Miharati Boys High School, Kipipiri, Nyandarua, Moi High School, Kabarak, Rongai, Nakuru, Arokuyet Girls High School, Bureti, Kericho. On my behalf and on your behalf, I wish to welcome the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Wanjiku Muya has asked me for 1 minute to welcome a school from her constituency. 1 minute exactly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I take this opportunity to welcome Miharati Boys, one of our great schools from our sub-county headquarters in Kipipiri, and they could not have visited this National Assembly a better time than during budget, and now they have heard from the majority leader. They have good news to take home, inform the parents that NGCDF will be disbursed tomorrow, and your long-awaited computer lab will kickstart construction, and on its completion, we shall ask the majority leader to come and open it so that you can relate your trip in the National Assembly and this budget of this year. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Robert Mbui, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to just clarify that even as I raised this question in the last assembly, this issue of CDF is not an issue of members of parliament, because sometimes the public gets confused. Members of parliament are interested in ensuring that this money goes to the constituencies for development of the constituencies. And I want to thank the majority leader for highlighting even some of the challenges that he's having. Mr. Speaker, my concern is on the dignity of the House. Remember that the CS Treasury has already given 2 letters confirming that money will be disbursed, 2 billion every week, and the first time he failed, the second time he has failed. Simple English tells me that once bitten, twice shy. I don't know when twice bitten what you say, because, Mr. Speaker, 2 times we have actually not gotten the results of what we wanted. And, Mr. Speaker, as we discuss the budget, it is clear that one of the things we have to do is appropriate the funds. The other one is to ensure that there's prudent expenditure of the same funds. Now, we are just a month to the end of the financial year. And we are talking about, Mr. Speaker, from what the majority leader has told us, 38% of this money has been released in the last 11 months. And now he wants us to believe, Mr. Speaker, that we will be able to get 62% within 1 month. Mr. Speaker, I want to propose as follows, Mr. Speaker, because we are the ones dealing with the budget. And Mr. Speaker, if for 11 months we have not been able to get the funds for this financial year for National Government Constituency Development Fund, GAF, and also the counties, maybe we suspend the debate on the budget until this money hits our accounts, then we can come back. You can call us on Saturday, you can call us on Sunday, any day we can come and continue. But let us give them an opportunity to put the money in their accounts, because what they are telling us they'll do in a month, they can do in a day if they are willing to do that. Mr. Speaker, I propose no CDF, no budget. No money for counties, no budget. More GAF, no budget, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Robert Mbui, you brought a very noble request. I would have easily said, go and talk to the Treasury. I directed the majority leader to bring you a response, which he has brought. And he has said that disbursing the money. The debate on the budget is ongoing, and the question will not even be put today. We have up to next week. So I want to encourage you that that extremist position is unhelpful and that we do not encourage it. When we reach the order, we carry on with the debate. Robustly debate as you always do. A budget statement will be presented to this House on Thursday. It falls within the period within which the majority leader said money will be disbursed. What I thought you'd be negotiating is that when the money is disbursed, I don't know what the regulations say, that when the end of the financial year truncates every expenditure, you ring-fence that money to carry on with the programs. If it is safe, then you need not worry. Then I encourage you to engage with the majority leader, and if you have any issues, you can refer to me, because I have constantly gone beyond my duty of call as your speaker to engage the Treasury, to disburse even funds for your mileage claims, for those who get mileage, for your subsistence, and for other things that encourage us to run the house. So I want you to also be fair and patient, and I thank you for raising the issue, because it has elicited a response that looks positive. It may be inadequate, but it's positive. Honorable Ichungwa, Order Wanjala, Honorable Ichungwa, the women rep for Kilifi, has come here to request the chair to ask you whether the disbursement coming today includes money for women MPs. And I thought I heard you say so. So, Honorable Mbeyu, your question is answered. I'm not encouraging any debate on this. Honorable Mbeyu, take your seat, please. He has said he spoke for CDF and women money as well, so you don't need to speak to it. Take your seat. Take your seat. Order. Honorable Mbeyu, when the speaker tells you to take your seat, you gracefully take your seat. And when you came to the chair to make a request, you and I agreed that I'll put it to him, which I have done, and he has given an answer. Now you are reneging on what we just agreed, and that is not being honorable. So I want to... Next order. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, general debate on the proposal to Parliament to consider amending the Constitution and the standing orders. Question to be put.
Order, honorable member, take your seat. I'm putting the question on this matter. Honorable members, I now put the question on the general debate on the proposal to Parliament to consider amending the Constitution and the standing orders. That noting the contents of a memorandum submitted to Parliament by His Excellency the President, asking Parliament to consider initiating amendments to the Constitution, acknowledging that actualization of the proposals which relate to inter alia the composition of Parliament as provided for in Article 97 and 98 of the Constitution, in order to attain the two-thirds gender principle, the creation of the office of Leader of Official Opposition in Parliament, and the inclusion of various funds in the Constitution will necessitate amendment to the Constitution, while the restructuring of parliamentary oversight to allow for cabinet secretaries to appear before the House of Parliament to respond to questions by members would require the amendments of standing orders, further acknowledging that the Speaker, via a notification issued on 9th December 2022, referred the matter raised in the memorandum to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs with regard to proposals relating to the implementation of the two-thirds gender principle and the establishment of the office of the Leader of Official Opposition. The Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, with regard to the proposals to amend the Constitution to entrench the constituency development, Senate oversight, and national government affirmative action funds, and the Procedure and House Rules Committee with regard to the proposals to amend the standing orders to strengthen parliamentary oversight of the executive so as to facilitate public participation pursuant to Article 118 of the Constitution. Now, therefore, pursuant to the provisions of Article 1, 2, and 95(2) of the Constitution, this House notes, considers, and makes general comments on the proposals contained in the memorandum by His Excellency the President. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, motion, consideration of the budget estimates for the financial year 2023-2024, general debate, day 2, resumption of debate.
The member for Wajir North was on the floor, and you have a balance of 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may proceed from where I was interrupted yesterday in supporting the budget appropriation report, I want to say that the budget estimate entrenches equitable and sustainable equitable tax and equity and sustainability in both tax and expenditure. Mr. Speaker, this was first seen and actually last seen during Kibaki's term in the Vision 2030 and the Economic Stimulus Program. And most of these are fundamental principles in our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, it is critical the situation of fiscal management in our nation that has been built over time since independence. The failure to rationalize the 2 tiers of government, both national and county government. Mr. Speaker, I can't listen. I can't hear. There's too much noise.
Order, honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. Order, Majority Whip. Will you take your seats? Order, honorable members. We are debating a very important issue, budgets. And it's good to hear your colleagues as they give their views, just like they'll hear you when you give yours. So those members who want to converse, we can't stop you. You can walk out to the corridor, or there are rooms behind the speaker's chair. You can go there and engage in your conversations, and allow those who are interested in debate, carry on with the debate and hear debate. Carry on, honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was saying we are in a very critical situation in the physical management of our nation that was built over time in terms of tax management, corruption, wastage since independence, and the failure to rationalize the two tiers of government, both the county and the national government, in terms of size and operations since 2010. This was further exacerbated by the handshake, which has led to stalled projects and indiscriminate borrowing, Mr. Speaker. These are serious times which can make and break this nation. We are in a very hard situation, and this demands for our collective support of all to find a sustainable situation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the elephant in the room is the diminished public trust in our institutions. In regard to grievances largely emanating from inability to tame economic indiscipline, inequity, marginalization, discrimination in terms of investment and use of public resources, corruption in all forms, and public resource wastage. Mr. Speaker, first on the equity and sustainability. Though I'm not a finance expert, I believe the regulations and administration set within the budget estimate guarantee that there is a balance in terms of tax balance between the haves and the have-nots. At least the major corporates are brought on board to make sure that they pay substantially. There is zero rating of food production, fertilizers, and all other technologies, and a really stringent tax administration to counter avoidance and evasions of tax payment, Mr. Speaker. Further, Mr. Speaker, the sustainability of tax principle is more visible in the revenue, in the expenditure perspective, I mean, Mr. Speaker. Our government has been allocating development and investment along the railway line during the colonial time, which was further inherited by the government from 1963. There was a skewed distribution of development, and since then, we have had disparities in terms of allocations. Equity has not been.
Time up, member for Chuka Igambangombe. Patrick Mwiga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I like to support this report on the 23rd, 24th financial year budget estimate as tabled by the Budget and Appropriation Committee. Mr. Speaker, the Budget and Appropriation Committee report proposes to increase the allocation to health sector from shillings 140 billion to shillings 141 billion for the financial year 23-24. This support, Mr. Speaker, will build a progressive, responsive, and a sustainable healthcare system for accelerated attainment of the highest standards of health for Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, this will guarantee a healthy, productive, and globally competitive nation for sustainable economic growth and development. Mr. Speaker, in order to realize this, the committee remains committed to the actualization of UHC, that is universal health coverage, through implementation of the National Social Health Insurance Scheme. Mr. Speaker, we want to remove to move NHIF from being an insurance scheme to a social scheme so that we can be able to cover all Kenyans under the UHC program. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Health is focused on ensuring Kenyans access quality health services through consistent supply of health commodities. We have had issues at KEMSA, Mr. Speaker, and we are working on that. We have really worked on that to make sure commodities reach Kenyans, to enhance capacity for human resource for health, to provide integrated health information system, and the social insurance to targeted vulnerable households. In an effort to change bias from curative to preventive and promotive health, the government is focused on strengthening primary health care through resourcing the primary health facilities, establishment of primary care networks, and strengthening community health services. This, Mr. Speaker, means we want to move this country more from concentrating on curative to preventive and promotive so that we can be able to save on the money that is spent on curing diseases that we can prevent, Mr. Speaker. It's against this backdrop that the committee approved shillings 1 billion allocated to recruitment of 44,444 community health volunteers. We will steer the revitalization of primary health care in the country. Mr. Speaker, in establishing the community health networks, we need community health workers who will be looking at households, communities, so that we can be able to detect diseases and health problems in the community as they arise, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the proposed budget for financial year 23-24 is prepared based on the better approach, that is a bottom-up economic transformation model for the Kenya Kwanza government that sets out the administration priority program, policies, reforms to be implemented attentive. The agenda is geared towards economic turnaround and inclusive growth and aim to increase investment in 5 sectors, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's again in this backdrop that the Committee on Health approved shillings 20 billion for the bottom-up economic transformation model that is directly linked to this model. This includes increasing accessibility to universal health coverage, local manufacturing of vaccines. Mr. Speaker, we realize that as a country 60 years after independence, we buy all our vaccines from outside, and Kenya has a capacity, Mr. Speaker, to produce these vaccines. So as a committee and as a ministry, we want to empower the Ministry of Health that Kenya can start producing their own vaccines and stop all these importations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also want to digitalize the health records in this country completely so that we can be able to know our health status and the diseases to concentrate on and what causes what at which area, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support this report, and on behalf of the Health Committee, I thank the Budget Committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Nabi Nabwera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start by saying that having looked at the budget estimates, 2023-2024, and Mr. Speaker, noting that I am a member of first the Education Committee and the Public Accounts Committee, are various issues to raise. Mr. Speaker, the first issue I want to raise is that when I look at this budget, at the backdrop of having only one teacher by JSS class, and that instead of increasing more money to the education sector, we are doubling money in the Office of the President, we are doubling money in NIS vote, we are doubling money, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, in the Office of the Deputy President. I have problems that we are not being sensitive to the Kenyan child. We are not being sensitive to the times that we are living in. The second problem I have with this budget, as I look at it, Mr. Speaker, it is the money in the infrastructure sector. The Constitution 2010 provides that any expenditure must be equitable, that the programs of the government must involve all parts of the country. When I look at the money that is going to fund infrastructure, it is going to fund infrastructure in particular sections of the country at the expense of the others. The question I keep on asking, are these people paying tax or not? The third point, Mr. Speaker, on this budget is in the energy sector. Mr. Speaker, I come from a constituency where 37 educational institutions are not provided with electricity, despite the fact that this House passed a motion indicating that all schools, all educational institutions must be provided with electricity. When I look at the budget lines, I don't see my constituency and other constituencies whose schools are not provided by electricity catered for. Mr. Speaker, I'm persuaded to think today, unless advised otherwise, that the increase in the money for defense indicates that then as a government, we are encouraging the problem in the Rift Valley. We are actually funding bandits. If not, what reason do we have to increase money for defense at the expense of the Kenyan child? Mr. Speaker, I come from a constituency that has been marginalized in development for many years. There is a road called C44, which connects 5 counties, Uasin Gishu, Kakamega, Bungoma, Trans Nzoia, and partly Nandi. Looking at this budget, this road has been that road has been launched 4 times, twice by Kibaki, twice by the Jubilee government, and even the current president, when he was the deputy president, he came to launch the road at Panpepa. Today, when I look at the budget estimates, there is no single cent for C44. Are we not Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, I have an issue of land. And when I look at this budget, I get concerned. The other day, I saw a letter from the CS Treasury asking for the Minister of Lands to exercise 2 forests. And when I look at this budget, there is provision for those 2 forests. Unfortunately, for the squatters living in Manzini Forest in Tarbo and squatters living in Mautuma Sendro, who are given land in 1992, they have not been provided for. What kind of country is this where we marginalize a section and provide for another? Mr. Speaker, I would like to support the estimates with amendments at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other honorable members, allow me to stay this debate and go back to order number 2 and deliver the following communication: an update on the replacement of the Deputy Minority Whip. Honorable members, you will recall that on Thursday, 4th May 2023, I issued a communication on the replacement of the Deputy Minority Whip. In that communication, I did guide the House that the communication received from the Minority Party with regard to the replacement of the Honorable Sabina Chege as the Deputy Minority Whip was incomplete when viewed against the requirements of Standing Order 20A. Consequently, I granted the Minority Party a period of 30 days within which to convey the appropriate communication on the replacement of its deputy minority whip, if it so wished. I now wish to update the House on further developments that have taken place with regard to the matter since my communication of 4th May 2023. Firstly, honorable members, my office is in receipt of letters dated 4th May 2023 from the Jubilee Party, terminating the membership of the Honorable Kanini Kega and the Honorable Sabina Chege MP. The letters are addressed to the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties and the Speaker of the National Assembly. In relation to the said termination, my office has further been copied in correspondence from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties dated 8th May 2023, requesting for particulars from the Jubilee Party on the process leading to the termination of the membership of the Honorable Kanini Kega and the Honorable Sabina Chege. Secondly, my office was copied in correspondence dated 2nd June 2023 between the Jubilee Party and the AZIMIO and UDA One Kenya coalition. In the correspondence, a Mr. Nelson Zuya, who signed off as the national chairperson of the Jubilee Party, requested the speakers of parliament to refrain from effecting changes to the leadership of parliament and committee membership pending the determination of a dispute between the party and the AZIMIO coalition. Thirdly, and of most importance, on 31st May 2023, my office also received a letter from the leader of the minority party, the Honorable James Opio Wandai, MGH MP, communicating the election of the Honorable Member for Embakasi West, the Honorable Mark Mwenje, MP, as the Deputy Minority Whip. In his letter, the leader of the minority party conveyed that the election was done at a meeting held by the minority party on Tuesday, 30th May 2023. Further, the leader of the minority party indicated that the letter was a follow-up to his earlier letter dated 6th April 2023, which notified the Speaker of the removal of the Honorable Sabina Chege MP as the Deputy Minority Whip. Members, take your seats. The nearest seats. The nearest seats. Thank you. Honorable members, in keeping with the requirements of Standing Order 20A, the letter from the leader of the minority party, accompanied by minutes of the meeting at which the removal and replacement of the whip was done, and a record of the membership of the minority party present at the meeting, suffices to effect the changes sought by the minority party. Fourthly, honorable members, my office has also been served with a court order issued on Tuesday, 30th May 2023, in Kiambu High Court petition number E-025 of 2023. The parties to the matter in question are the Association of Friends of Youths and Women as the petitioner, and the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Clerk of the National Assembly, the National Assembly itself, and the Attorney General as respondents. In the petition, the petitioners argue that the Standing Order 20A 4 of the National Assembly Standing Orders does not clearly outline the process for the removal of a whip or a deputy whip, and is therefore contrary to Articles 10, 47, 732, and 236 of the Constitution. For the benefit of members, the orders issued by the court in the matter are as follows, and I quote, that the application is certified as urgent, that pending the hearing and determination of the application, conservatory order be and is hereby issued suspending the implementation of the decision to remove Honorable Sabina Chege from the office of the Deputy Minority Whip in the National Assembly as communicated by the first respondent on 4th May 2023. That the applicant petitioner to serve the respondents within 7 days from the date hereof. that the respondents to file and serve their respective responses within 7 days of being served by the applicant and petitioner, that the mention on 14th June 2023 for parties to confirm compliance and take further directions from court number 2. Honorable members, the Constitution has distributed sovereign power to the three arms of government in a very deliberate manner. Through a robust system of checks and balances, the Constitution has granted each arm sufficient powers to discharge its mandate and defend itself from unwarranted intrusion from either arm at the same time. For government to work in a harmonious fashion, each arm ought to refrain from inordinately wading into the internal affairs of its counterparts. With regard to the affairs of the legislature, the executive may make general legislative proposals, but Parliament is solely vested with the mandate of enacting laws. Similarly, though the court is granted powers to enforce and interpret the Constitution, it normally refrains from interfering with the internal processes of the legislature. Members, take your seats, the nearest seats. The nearest seats, please. Article 165(6) of the Constitution grants the High Court supervisory jurisdiction over any person, body, or authority exercising a judicial or quasi-judicial function. In line with the dictates of this article, the courts have all along distinguished the legislative role of Parliament from its administrative and quasi-judicial functions. Order, Honorable Mbade and Sabina Chege. Consequently, the courts have only exercised their supervisory jurisdiction to review the quasi-judicial and administrative functions of the Parliament when either vetting or considering petitions for the removal of persons from office. However, honorable members, the courts have always refrained from interfering with the lawmaking powers of Parliament. They have consistently limited themselves to reviewing the content of bills after their enactment into law. Indeed, any interference of the court in the consideration of a bill that is actively before the legislature would constitute a striking departure from established constitutional precedent and practice both in the Commonwealth and the congressional systems. This is a matter which both the court itself and my predecessors have ruled on. In South Africa, the court has held as much in the celebrated case of Doctors for Life International versus the Speaker of the National Assembly and others, CCT 12 of 206, ZACC 11. In declining to interfere in the consideration of a bill, the court held that South African constitutional scheme contemplates that challenges to the constitutional validity of a bill passed by Parliament must await the completion of the legislative process. Honorable members, with the foregoing distinction in mind, I note that the House has been taken before the courts, before the courts, including by its own members, and the courts have ruled both in favor and against this House. The House will recall that in the 11th Parliament, the leader of the minority party, the current leader, the Honorable James Opio Andai, MGH MP, did successfully challenge his suspension from the service of the House for the remainder of the 4th session. In his suit, the Honorable Member for Ugunja challenged provisions of the standing orders on the fairness of the penalties relating to disorderly conduct and their effect on the constitutional right of a member to represent his or her constituents. The litigation by the leader of the minority party significantly contributed to the amendments made to the standing orders to provide for different categories of disorderly conduct, graduated penalties ranging from suspension for a day to a maximum of 90 calendar days, and an appellate process. During the same 11th Parliament, members will also recall that the court injuncted the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and Lands from considering petitions submitted to the House for the removal of the then Auditor General and the then Chairperson of the National Land Commission, respectively, pursuant to the provisions of Article 251 of the Constitution. Despite the disaffection of the House and the Presidium with the orders granted in the foregoing cases, the House nevertheless observed the directions issued by the court and halted its quasi-judicial and administrative processes. Notably, in guiding the House on the order issued with regard to the petition for the removal of the Auditor General, my predecessor, the Honorable Speaker Justin Muturi, rightly noted that the only avenue available in law to express disagreement with a judicial finding is an appeal against the decision of the court. Honorable members, I have in this 13th Parliament had occasion to uphold my predecessor's guidance in relation to court orders made against the House and its committees in relation to the exercise of quasi-judicial and administrative functions. Members will recall that on 15th of November 2022, the Employment and Labor Relations Court granted conservatory orders staying the vetting of nominees for appointment as principal secretaries in Constitutional Petition E186 of 2022, Dr. Mogare Gikeni versus the President of the Republic of Kenya, and 55 others, and in Constitution Petition number E192 of 2022, the Law Society of Kenya versus the National Assembly, and 4 others. In deference to the directions of the court with respect to the applicable administrative process, I did notify the House of the suspension of the vetting process despite the discomfort that the decision caused to the business of this House. Immediately thereafter, I instructed our litigation counsel to challenge the orders in court. As your Speaker, I remain cognizant of the obligation imposed by Article 3 of the Constitution on me to respect, defend, and uphold the Constitution in guiding the proceedings of the House. On one hand, the minority party has met all the procedural requirements to effect a change of its leadership. On the other hand, I'm confronted by a court order that specifically cited both the Speaker and the House as parties to a judicial process that seems to challenge an administrative process. Despite the sympathies I may hold for the predicament that the minority party finds itself, this House has consistently demonstrated its willingness to abide by orders of the court relating to the exercise of its quasi-judicial and administrative functions. Even where certain orders have been adverse to the interests of the House, we have dutifully obeyed them and sought to set aside the orders that we were not in agreement with. Honorable members, from the foregoing, my hands are therefore tied with regard to the court order that has been brought to my attention. Until and unless further information is provided that this order has been varied or set aside, the court order effectively suspends the decision by the minority party on the replacement of the Honorable Sabina Chege as the Deputy Minority Whip. As a seasoned legislator and experienced party leader myself, my heart sinks whenever I see a dispute that may be resolved through internal dispute resolution mechanisms being referred to in an adversarial court system. In my experience, court battles may be counterproductive and may ultimately destroy long-standing political relationships. I encourage the minority party and the Jubilee Party to seek an amicable resolution of whatever it is that may be the bone of contention with the coalition and between the members of its constituent party. I am confident that an amicable resolution of the issues shall positively contribute to the continuity of the business of the House and its vibrancy. In issuing my communication of 4th May 2023, I did guide that I was hesitant to recognize the Jubilee Party as a parliamentary party despite its meeting the threshold prescribed under the standing order. At this stage, I'm still hesitant to recognize the party. Order, order, order. Obviously, the two gracious ladies are not being choked by anything, and their conduct is constituting a nuisance, and any further interruptions will attract some penalties. Honorable members, in the current situation persists and provided with all relevant particulars by the Jubilee Party, I may have no choice but to recognize the party. In the meantime, what is available to Honorable and I have ruled that we have procedurally followed every step and have no difficulty with your decision to remove your deputy whip. But there is a court order to which, strangely, your party and your coalition is not a part of the proceedings. I would advise you that you seek to enjoin yourselves with the proceedings, if you wish, and pursue the matter in court. I have already instructed our litigation team to end appearance and robustly defend the Speaker, the Clerk, and the National Assembly in this matter. It is so ordered. Order. Order, Honorable Millie and Honorable, you will leave the chamber. Honorable Millie. Order. Order. Order, Honorable Millie. Order. 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 Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members. Order. Take your seats. Order, take your seats. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, take your seats. Order, take your seats. Order, honorable members. Order. Order. Take your seats. Take your seats. Order. Take your seat. You can do better than that, Kajwang. Order. 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 Order, Millie. Order. 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 Orderlies, I order Honorable Rosa Buyu and Honorable Millie Odhiambo to leave the chamber. Honorable Rosa Buyu and Honorable Millie Odhiambo, you are ordered to leave the chamber. You are ordered to leave the chamber. Honorable Rosa Buyu and Honorable Millie Odhiambo, you leave the chamber. Order. Honorable Rosa Buyu and Millie Odhiambo will leave the chamber. You will leave the chamber. Yes. Sergeant? Yeah? Order. Honorable Rosa Buyu and Millie Odhiambo will leave the chamber. Sergeant, will you ensure the two members are out of the chamber? Sergeant, ensure the two members are out of the chamber. Sergeants, enforce the order of the chair, Sergeant. Honorable Kajwang, take your seat. Order, honorable members. Kajwang. Honorable Sergeant, can you enforce the order of the chair? Honorable Rosa Buyu and Honorable Millie. Order, honorable members. Order. Kajwa. Order. Order. Honorable Mbadi, you are the seniors of this house. You can do better. Honorable Kajwang. Honorable Kajwang, take your seat. Take your seat, I'll hear you. I want to see Rosa Buyu and Millie leave the chamber. Order. Order. Order, honorable members. Sergeant, can you take the two members out? Sergeant, will you take out the two suspended members? Honorable Kajwang, you'll also follow. You'll also follow. Sergeant. Sergeant, can you enforce the order of the chair? Order, honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. The House will take a short recess of 15 minutes. Lower the mess, and the House is suspended for 15 minutes.